Baldev Gill, welcome to Careers That Matter. You have an interesting career. How do you describe what your job is?
Well, it's really interesting. I'm a jack of all trades, really. My background is in accounting. I'm a CPA, a chartered professional accountant, but I've done other roles, and I'm always curious about learning more and putting myself outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I started out my career working for a CA firm, a public practice firm on the North Shore. And that training, I spent about 6 years with that firm, and that training was really, really valuable for me. And it kind of set my career on the right path.
So there's a number of different disciplines within accounting. Was there something in particular, or were you a general services accountant?
Well, I would say my focus was really tax and audit, and
Yeah.
so that's what I was providing for our clients. Because it was a mid-sized firm, I was kind of thrown into the deep end right off the bat and said, here you go, these are the files you're going to be working with. And I had a lot of support. There's a partner that I still am in contact with, and he was a great mentor for me. He really said to me, look, you know what, you put in your time, 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you're going to be something moving forward. And when you're in your early 20s, you say, yeah, sure, right?
Yeah, right.
We'll see what happens. But that grounding, that training, that mentoring really helped me kind of skyrocket in terms of my career aspirations beyond that.
So you stayed with that firm for how long?
Just under 6 years.
Where'd you go from there?
Well, I actually went to a trade union, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. They were looking for a director of finance at that time, and I had the public practice background, and so I was able to provide the accounting expertise as well as the audit and tax expertise. So I took that role, and I took that role because in my view at that time it was a step up in my career progression. It was a director of finance role. And I excelled at that. I really enjoyed it. It was interesting working for a trade union, which was also represented by a trade union for the staff. And
so there was a union within the union?
There was a union within a union.
Yeah.
So after about a year or two, they said, well, you seem to be pretty good in accounting, so why don't you do a little bit of labor relations work and help us with some of the internal grievances or arbitration issues that we're facing. So I thought, well, that's kind of outside of my comfort zone, but it intrigued me and it interested me. So I started taking some courses on labor relations and collective bargaining and negotiations. And lo and behold, I really, really enjoyed that. And the accounting background really supplemented my learning there too.
Oh, okay. You anticipated my question. How did accounting help you be better at that new role?
Well, I think with the accounting, you have to be very analytical. And as part of being analytical, you look at things slightly differently and from different lenses and different perspectives. And you need that when you're in collective bargaining, and you need that when you're trying to resolve a dispute. And so I really used a lot of skills I was able to learn and gain from my public practice days and apply them directly to the new world I was in, which was the collective bargaining.
Because when you're in that finance role with an accounting background, you understand the dynamics of every decision and how it's going to impact so many different parts of the organization.
Absolutely, yes.
So how long did you do that for?
Well, I think I did that for about 4.5, 5 years. And then so it was time to move on. And it was interesting because my parents at the time said, well, geez, why would you leave such a good paying job? You've got the defined benefit program. No one gets that.
Because they're thinking of security.
Exactly. They're thinking of security. And you've got to understand the mindset of my parents. My dad worked for the lumber industry and stayed there for many, many years.
Yes.
And so security was very, very important.
Yes.
But I had a slightly different perspective on where I wanted to be in my career. So after about 4 or 5 years, I decided that, okay, well, now I've got the accounting background, and I've also got the labor relations background, and there was an opportunity.
Right, and you also have a position of authority within an organization as well. So you have leadership and administrative skills that you've developed.
Absolutely. And so from there, I thought, what's next for me? And then there was this opportunity with the ACTRA Performers Guild. It was called the Union of BC Performers.
Oh my gosh.
And they were looking for a chief financial officer. And I thought, well, geez, you know what, that sounds pretty good. And I don't know anything about anything about acting.
Well, and it's a complex environment.
And it's a complex environment. And so certainly I didn't get the role because of my ability to act. But what they saw in me was the fact that I'd worked for a trade union in the past. They were a union negotiating collective agreements with producers and the like. They had a master agreement, which performers fall within.
Yes.
They
Complex master agreement. I know this from people who are in ACTRA.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting. And so I think what they saw in me was the fact that the good grounding in the accounting, finance area, plus administration, as well as collective bargaining. And so I took on that role in early 2000.
Starting in a medium-sized private practice in North Van, now you move into ACTRA. You work your way through there. How long were you there, and then where'd you go next?
Well,
because what an exciting career! Who knew that it would keep building like that?
Well, it just kept building,
Yeah.
and I was there till from about 2000 till early 2005, and then I decided to make another change in my career path.
Of course. Why get set in your
Well,
ways?
I think
Yes.
at that time, we had a young family. We had 2 children that were within 2 years of age, and my wife is also a CPA as well, and so she has a demanding job. I was traveling quite a bit with the Actors Guild, and so I thought, I need to look at a little bit more stability in terms of being around more to be able to satisfy the family needs.
Well, sure. These are important decisions because this is our family.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so from that perspective, I said, okay, I'm going to try to look at a role where I don't have to travel as much. There'll still be some travel, but it'll be a little bit more contained. I can have a little bit more control over that. And so then I decided to go with the Certified General Accountants of Canada, which was a national and actually international organization because we had members in different parts of the world as well. And I took that role on as CFO and as well as the Vice President of Human Resources, and that was a national role.
Based here in Vancouver.
Well, we had 2 offices. We had one in Ottawa, right across from the Parliament buildings, and then one in downtown Vancouver. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Down on Melville there, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, close to Melville. We were on the corner of, we were on Georgia and Butte.
Oh, yes, right.
1188 West Georgia.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that pushes you further and further up the corporate chain. You're taking on more responsibilities and much more leadership. You hang in there for a while, and then you make another change. Where'd you go from
Well,
there?
one of the things I was tasked with was working with all 3 accounting bodies: the Chartered Accountants, the Certified Management Accountants, as well as the Certified General Accountants.
Right.
And there was much discussion, and I was with that organization for about 10 years.
Yes.
And there was much discussion in the latter part of my tenure, in the last 4 or 5 years, about consolidation of the accounting industry.
Right.
And so I was put on a couple of committees and task forces to help facilitate what we call the merger of the 3 accounting bodies. And so I spent a lot of time, and again, that was outside of my comfort zone because I really hadn't done mergers.
Sounds like everything has been outside of your comfort zone, but you grew into a level of comfort.
Well, that's exactly it. And,
Yeah.
and so I really enjoyed that learning piece. And so I thought, well, this is something that, I'm not 100% confident on, but I think I can learn. I think I'm bright, and I'll be able to kind of work and navigate my way through it, obviously with assistance with other folks within our office. And we did that well, and eventually that led to a merger in September of 2014. Mm-hmm. And so then I had to make another critical decision, whether I stay on with the organization, the new combined entity, or whether I decide to move forward. And so it was a natural time after 10 years with that same organization to look at something different. Mm-hmm. And an opportunity of chief operating officer for the chartered professionals in human resources came up. And so I applied to that, and I was successful, and I did that for 4 years after that, yes.
And now you have ascended to the peak at the CEO position at the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board.
Stu, I had always wanted to become a CEO, but I was always worried that I didn't have the skill sets to become a CEO. So I spent a lot of time learning the different facets of finance, operations, administration, collective bargaining, negotiating, HR. And so I got to the point where I thought to myself, geez, I'm going to be turning 50 pretty soon. I better make a choice. If I'm going to get this job, I'm going to get it. and I'm going to push hard for it because I figured that now was a good time to do that. And so I applied and was successful. And what really attracted me to the CEO role with the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, I'm not sure if you know this, but I also have a development business as well where we develop residential homes.
No, I didn't know that.
It's a 50% ownership with my brother. So he and I own a development company, so we build residential homes on the North Shore. And I've been working with realtors for almost 25 years, buying and selling real estate as part of our secondary hobby or interest. And so I thought it was a natural fit. I was awarded a couple of CEO jobs prior to that one, which I didn't quite think was a natural fit.
Yeah.
This one just felt right because having worked with realtors for almost 25 years, understanding the industry, I was part of that industry, and also from the selling side of the residential homes that we built, got a good understanding of the industry.
So the role of CEO is something that we all hear about. Oh yeah, you're the boss. You get to make all the decisions. You get to do all of these things, but you don't necessarily have your sleeves rolled up and you're in there, banging nails or driving the stake in the ground or those kinds of things very often. But you have to understand how all of those things work.
Yes, correct. I'm a big.
So what does a day look like for you?
Well, it's. I try to plan out the day, and often it gets hijacked by other things that are happening during that day. But I think the key to being a successful CEO is really surrounding yourself with a team of capable and confident individuals that know their trade or craft very, very well.
Okay, we hear that all the time, but the only way that you can know whether or not they're the appropriate person is if you know how to do that job yourself. And it sounds from the progression of your career that you learned how to do all of these jobs or similar jobs so that you can make informed decisions about who is the right person.
And that's why I spent a number of years kind of strategizing as to how I was going to navigate my career to get to the CEO role. So when I get there, I'm going to be successful because I will have hired IT professionals. I will have hired communication specialists. I will know what to look for as part of that hiring process so that I can build a team that rather than having to roll up my sleeves, I can rely on their expertise in making good decisions for the organization.
So what do you think were the most important personal characteristics that you possess that put you in a position where you could realize this opportunity?
I think integrity, credibility, and a sense of fairness.
Yeah.
Yes, and so I think that's what I hold on very dear, and I think when I work with our staff, I always look at it from their perspective. If I was in their shoes, what would I want my boss to do? And there's this sense of fairness.
Right.
And I'll give you an example with the Fraser Valley Board. There was a decision made a few years back before I joined that certain benefits wouldn't be afforded to new hires, but the previous individuals would
They were
continue
grandfathered in. Yeah.
And I thought, really, you've got individuals doing the same task, doing the same work. And having worked at the Union of BC Performers, where in the mid-90s, 1996 actually, where we kind of ran into that situation where we had junior clerks and regular clerks doing the same work but being paid at a different rate of pay, really kind of stuck with me and crawled all over me. And I thought, well, there's an issue of fairness here. If they're doing the same work, they should be paid appropriately. And so that's what we introduced. So when I came on board, we had probably a handful of individuals that weren't getting certain benefits, and we made it fair for them. And I think that sense of fairness is what drives me.
Well, it also sounds to me, as you were talking about your career moves, that you were willing to take some chances.
Yes.
How important is that?
You have to take chances. You have to believe in yourself. There's always that part of you that says, can I do it? I'm not sure. I'm a little nervous. But if you don't take chances, you'll never know. And you have to be bold. And you're not going to succeed all the time. So there has been some setbacks where you go, wow, okay, well, that's not how I envisioned it, but I've learned something from it. And so next time we're going to build on this and make sure we succeed.
So were you able to embrace that in the moment, that concept, which you go, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's a nice phrase, but in the moment when you're feeling the sting of it not working, that is a challenging moment for all of us, isn't it?
It is a challenging moment, but I try not to dwell too much on that because I also believe that there are certain things that happen for a reason, and sometimes not getting a particular role that you really put your heart and soul into it makes you stronger. It does sting in the moment, but
Yeah.
if you can get past that, it does make you stronger going forward. And I'll give you an example. I had applied for a CFO role a few years back, and I thought, geez, this is the ideal
This is
job
the
I really
job,
wanted. And I came in second. I thought, geez, you know what? What did I do wrong? It wasn't anything that I'd done wrong. The other candidate was seen to be, I guess, the preferred candidate in the sense that they had a better fit with that individual. And so fit is very, very important. And,
Right.
and so when I look at my own career, I've turned down jobs that I've been offered, two CEO's jobs prior to Fraser Valley, that I just didn't think the fit was going to be there and I couldn't be successful. And I couldn't do that to
Right.
the employer.
Well, I think one of the things that we need to focus on in life is, yes, success is wonderful, but effort's even more important.
That's right. And being resilient.
Yes.
Effort and resilience, I think if you're resilient and you don't give up, you will see a better day. While the sting might be there and you continue to put your head down and keep marching forward, I think you'll be successful.
Well, now, your career is a career that matters because you've helped to influence change in a positive way, and you stand as an inspiration for people who are entering the workforce going forward. Thanks for coming in and sharing this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.